But um, when it's ready, it will share his story. Some people just join our call join our program because they're about to get started on the program, on the job, and they need that foundation to get them ready. If you're comfortable, bro, ping me and I can make you talk to the team, motivate somebody, hopefully, with your story. But it's part of us, so exciting news. It got actually second offer, so which is great. All right, let's get into the details for today. We are recording right now. Okay, go. So what is third-party risk management? Typically, let's keep it simple. It's just a process of analyzing and controlling risk within our organization by third service providers, as simple as that, really. Because we know already from the target case we talked about a few minutes ago, it's a huge weak link for us if we don't tackle it. So it's not something you dismiss, especially if you're a big organization, because it can expose you to, number one, financial risk, operational risk, regulatory risk, and at times, your reputation can be damaged forever. Imagine right now, most people, the poster child for third-party risk management risk has been Target, for example. And this incident happened probably 2013 or so. So it's been a long time, but despite that, it's still something we all remember because they were like the first big case out there that really showed how much third party can really compromise the data of millions of people. So it's a big, big deal. Okay. And again, because we've talked about a lot of things, please go and listen to the class. I'll skip a lot of things and focus on the lab. Like I say, that's the value I bring. Everything else we can read. I've taken the lecture. So I'll skip a lot of things and focus on important areas. Still go back and listen to the class, everybody, okay? I'll still skim through areas that I feel are important. All right, let's see. Is there still risk? What is the risk? Meaning, at the end of the day, I have a third party I've outsourced my work to. Let me trade out to the team. Is there still risk? So let's see, what do you guys think? We've outsourced work to a third party, is there still risk? What do you think? All right, excellent. Why do you think there's still risk? There's always risk, fair point. But why do you think there's still risk? I've outsourced my job to Amazon to be the one to take care of, all our stuff. They are Amazon Web Service, so why should I care? Why do you think I should still care? Because ultimately I'm still liable, right? Yeah, I'm still liable at the end of the day. There's a human factor. All right. Third parties involved. There's no 100%. Fair point. There's still human factor. Yep. Okay. Fair point. Fair point. Okay, cool. And sometimes you'll notice that I will disable the chat if I don't want distraction for everybody. Sometimes I will allow everybody to chat, but yeah, I'll allow everybody. Okay, good. All right, cool. I think I agree with that. All right, so many people transfer risk because they want it to be somebody else's problem, but guess what? Nope, it's not going to be somebody else's problem. It's still going to be a problem. But why do people typically outsource services? Let's think together. It makes sense in some cases. Number one, if it's going to increase my efficiency, if it's going to reduce costs for me, if it's going to allow me to focus on my competency, then it makes the most sense, for example. So let's give a practical example, right? So why do we need to, use a service like Zoom, right? Because we think instead of we building a tool to allow us to connect with others, it makes sense to just use Zoom. Number one, it will have been crazily expensive to build such a solution. Number two, how do you maintain such a solution? Number three, how do you scale such a solution if you want to add hundreds of people? So why don't we just focus on letting a company that knows how to do it well do their magic. I provide oversight to make sure they are processing my customers' information well because I'm still liable, right? So that's the same mindset. Think from a point of it's helping us to be efficient, helping us to focus on our core competency and the economic of scale in general for better pricing, better processes for us as an organization too. So what are some of the potential areas people typically outsource? Supply chain is a big one, but in terms of the risk that could happen, we can think of financial risk, reputation risk, regulatory risk, information security risk, service delivery risk. These are potential risks that can happen within our organization, right? So just think through that for a second. We should be monitoring third party. Some of you on the call earlier on, this was a big one you guys talked about in terms of monitoring. And let me tell you what I think. Yeah, it's a business decision at the end of the day. Sometimes I've seen some of my clients focus on monitoring themselves, but only to find out, one, it's more expensive. Let's brainstorm. Why do you think it's expensive for me to be the one monitoring all my network? Can we type? What do you think? Why do you think it's more expensive? Why do you think what are the factors that come in when you think about it? It's inefficient. Yes, I agree. Cost is a big deal. Cost is a big deal. Yeah. Yeah. Time factor, cost. Yes. Excellent. Okay. Fair point. Yeah. Cost is a big thing. Resource time. Yep. I think you guys are spot on. Yeah, that's a big one. Because at the end of the day, your most environment I've seen, 70% of the time get out of monitoring themselves because they realize it's taking so much time. They still provide oversight though. So it doesn't mean I'm monitoring myself, that's it. I'm still providing oversight at the end of the day, right? So it's still a big deal because ultimately we are responsible for it. But in terms of our time, it takes away from our focus business operation. So if we can outsource it to somebody that will do it well, and we just get reports, understand the threats, they give us weekly, monthly, quarterly reports, then we should be fine most of the time. So it's a business case. Everybody decides what works best for their business. Somebody asked a question I would like to quickly address. When you say you don't want to be ash because you want them to still use you, does that mean that they don't use external auditing companies? So it doesn't even matter. I could be internal or I could be external. And it can be anything, any project you find yourself in. It's always a smart idea because it could be your internal customers, right? It's the same company, but you have customers within the same company, right? So it doesn't even matter whether it's external or not. So the point I'm making is, if an environment is horrible, hypothetically, they have issues in their security, it could be third-party risk, they have a lot of issues they have to deal with. It's only smart for you, especially when you are presenting them to their leadership. It's only smart for you to start by articulating things they've done right. Two things happen when you do that. Number one, it shows you've done due diligence to do a full-fledged assessment of the environment, which is great. It shows that, oh, I've seen things they are doing well. So they will respect you for that. Okay. Because if you are telling me only the bad things, everybody, look, the truth is, everybody knows what they are doing bad, 90% of the time. So there's nothing new you're telling them. You think they don't know that they don't have a good system. They know. Some of the time you realize that they are new also in the organization. So it's not like they have a history of what has happened in the past. I've been on environments that everybody is new. The oldest in the team was 9 months. And this is a company that has been having chain of turnover for like 11 years or whatever. So who do you blame? Are you going to blame somebody that just started 2 months ago, 1 month ago, right? So the smart thing is always and it doesn't matter whether it's a good, smart practice in professional life, I think. Always, especially when you're in a place that your decision can impact livelihood, because your report can make them fire somebody. That's the reality. So it's always smart to start by the premise that, okay, yeah, these are the issues we found. Let's talk about things you guys are doing well that we've seen. It doesn't mean that you're telling them everything is fine. You're saying these are the things you've seen that are pretty good. Then you can now get into the areas that are bad. It's just a smart, give people some dignity, because they're just working, right? Everybody we just want to work and feed our family. That's all. So it's a smart thing. I don't care what area, industry, it doesn't matter. Just start by giving them accolades on areas they've done well. Then you can now you ease into those areas, soft landing, I like that, areas that are challenges and gaps. So, all right, just make it a lifestyle. You'll see the impact professionally. All right, so let's go to the next one. 3 models for third party, generally speaking. In general terms, many times you will see a mixture of different model. Yeah, we are using the term third party, vendor risk. Sometimes you can see them interchangeably used. But let's focus on third party from a point of, they are still your vendors, right? And so they are working. In fact, right now, maybe you guys have heard of the concept of fourth party. How many of us have heard of fourth party before? If you've heard of it, give me thumbs up. No? Okay. All right. So it's crazy, but that's one of the newest things out there. I was on a conference this week, and that was the big thing that came up, fourth party. So fourth party means I'm a third party. I also have another person doing your work. So it's like another layer of extra. So let's say you hire me to do some work for you. I also hire somebody to do additional work for me to support you. So that's fourth party. Now, yeah, the layer is now getting crazy, but it's the reality, right? Because sometimes most of us will tell the clients we can do it, right? And I'll tell you, most folks in consulting, for example, yes, subcontractor, yeah, we pick a project, right? We tell the client we can execute. Now, guess what we do after we tell the client we can execute? Who wants to guess? You go and hire people that can do it, because we realize we don't have the resource to do it. That's it. You hire. That's it. That's it. Because what else would you do? You just have to go hire. That's it. Now you have the job. They've signed the contract. Initially, when you were doing the presentation, you can't just go hire because of a job that you've not gotten, right? They've not signed, so you don't know if they'll pay. Oh yeah, it's legal. Absolutely. Absolutely legal. Because at the end of the day, we're still liable. It's still you. Who cares how you do it? Just do the job. If it goes south, don't forget there's a master service agreement. We have a contract already. We've signed every documentation. So I don't care. Mine is do the job, right? You can go subcontract it to anybody. That's on you. Even at the government level, nobody cares. If you have a contract with the government expects you to fulfill your obligation on the contract. Now, however you source your contractors, that's on you. It's not our problem, right? You are the one liable at the end of the day. So it's on you to go do the background check. If it requires security clearance, then you have to process that security clearance, find the people to execute. It's on you. Okay. Centralized is just a general way whereby your procurement team, think about it, because now we are talking of contract, right? At this point, a lot of people are involved. Your procurement is involved, your legal is involved, your HR is involved. So a lot of people are involved when we talk about third party at the end of the day, because it requires a lot of legal heavy lifting, and your procurement is always a big part of the puzzle. And they are pretty good because that's their focus and their job. They just focus on making sure all the contract, all the due diligence, all the documentation around the agreement, master service agreement, legal will work on it too. So sometimes it takes a long time because people want to make sure they have the right mix before they sign a contract with a third party. And just like you and I, right? Don't overthink it. Think about it. Most of us sign contract with a lot of people, All right, you need to get some repairs done in your house. Somebody comes in and they do the repairs, right? If things don't go well, then you can legally ask for a refund, vice versa. If somebody does work for you, you sign and you don't pay, they have a right to sue you for not paying. As simple as that, right? Decentralized many times, um, a lot of times this would be, in many cases, you could have a big organization, but the way they process contract or third party would be different. The information technology folks, financial folks, they might have different ways of coordinating their third party resources. Now, it's not necessarily the best practice. Sometimes some people have some highly skilled, specialized areas that will require them to do a decentralized model. But most people recommend centralized model so we can have a central procurement team ensuring that our contracts are run in similar models. Hybrid is a mixture of both of them. Again, one thing I always notice is that it's so important to always at the early stage include the procurement team or give them good information ahead of time about the process in total. Somebody said, do all third-party risk management involve procurement? It depends on the organization at the end of the day, but don't forget, eventually, some environment will require you to do a RFP, right? So you have to do due diligence to show that, okay, there was an RFP. Because if not, how do I ensure that you did not just bring your body to just come in to do the project? Now, for smaller shop, maybe smaller projects, and every business is different, we might say if it's less than $200,000, people can make decision for hiring and third party, whatever. If it's more than a certain milestone, then procurement will be involved for sure. So if you're talking of over 500,000, then certain project will require you to open it to the public for bidding, right? And there are regulations around that too. So you're not just going to say, I have a $5 million project, I'm awarding it to this company. No. Even though you know this company is probably the ones you would give this project to because of their reputation, but legally and to cover yourself, you still want to make sure you open it as an open bid contract. So every environment is different, but typically most people will do that, right? Because don't overthink it. Remember, at the end of the day, let's focus on this cycle. This is the cool part of it. There's always a selection process, right? What is your selection process, right? Based on the selection process, we have to think of how do we onboard you? Then what is the management around it? Are we going to renew you? What's the renewal process? Then ultimately, there's going to be a termination. You're not going to be a subcontractor or third party forever, right? And I've seen people on the same project for 11 years. All they are doing is renewing the contract for 11 years. But no matter how long you're in the project, one thing I'll tell you, there's a termination date coming at some point because it's not your company, right? And I've seen clients 12 years that I know very well, 12 years on a project. But what they do is they just keep renewing. And I'm talking of millions of dollars, right? They'll keep renewing but let me tell you what I've seen. At some point, there will be a change of leadership, and the leadership would be not loyal to your company, and you start seeing grumbling. They will start reviewing and say, wait a minute, who have we been paying $5 million every year for the last 11 years? Then your name will pop up. The leadership does not have any alliance to you. You don't have a relationship with them. And this person would probably have a different vision and priority, like Sebastian said. So their priorities have changed, their vision has changed, then there'll be rumbling. The rumbling will begin by saying, wait a minute, let's see if these guys are performing their service level agreement, which is agreement we signed to say we'll be meeting certain milestone, resolving certain issue, whatever it is, right? Then they will start building a case to get you fired. So when you start seeing that writing on the wall, just start preparing that, man, we've milked for 10 years, it's time to start thinking of some other company because these guys are about to fire us from this project. And that happens all the time. It's nothing personal, it's just change of leadership. So just put that at the back of your mind. But this is a popular thing out there. Somebody said time to lobby. Honestly, for folks in consulting or even any field, to be honest, any field you find yourself, you have to continuously find a way to give back to the community in a way that reflects, show that you're a strategic partner. For example, if you're in a company and let me say hypothetically, you're helping a company for the last 5, 6 years, whatever number, it's only smart to say, look, as part of your give back, to keep it legal, do like an education program whereby everybody in the organization, your team, have access to maybe your central learning management system in certain skills to help them successful. So that people kind of remember you and say, hey, those are the guys that we learned there. They keep us relevant. And a company like Cisco, Amazon, Oracle, Microsoft, why do you think they offer all this certification free for people? You think they like us? Heck no. They don't. Nobody likes anybody. It's an angle. It's a strategy to say, if you keep your program relevant to people, it's hard for them to quit because you've used that program to keep them relevant. So people just align with you real quick. Okay. All right. Let's talk about selection. What does that mean? We're just choosing the vendors, and everybody will have a system to choose their vendor. I'll run through this so that we can jump on our labs and get busy. Onboarding, like we say, is just how do we get those people onboarded? How do we execute the contract? How do we rank them in terms of the tiers of our vendors? And how do they have access to our system, right? Management, what is the compliance? How are we sure they are complying with all the key things we need? What is their report? What kind of audit report do they have? What kind of certification do they have to be comfortable with them? Some of the vendors will require something we call SOC 2 report. The report will just show all their security controls and where they stand. They keep it public so that people would have confidence in what they're doing at the moment, right? Renewal, you make that decision and say, okay, do we renew their contract, right? Based on their previous performance, you will determine if to renew their contract or not, based on that at any point in time. Then we talk about termination. It's not a function of if you'll be terminated is when. As long as it's not your business, at some point, you'll be terminated too, like everybody else. So think through that process, making sure it's orderly done. Then what's the knowledge transfer in terms of transitioning to the upcoming thing? And you have to do it professionally too, because today, because they kicked you out, does not mean they will not bring you back tomorrow. But if you live with bad impression, then people will just say, well, forget those guys, because they messed us up. Another thing is, what's the process around return or destruction of information? Some people have archiving policy, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. Follow the guideline of the business and your agreement and align accordingly. Third-party risk management, these are some very good, solid foundation. If you notice, we have the policy as the foundation. Then 2 things I want us to take note of here is vendor tier, vendor ranking, how we tier the vendors, how we rank them at the end of the day. Because there are so many tools out there, GRC tool like Archer, there is the OneTrust, there is ServiceNow GRC, a couple of them out there. They can use an element within GRC, they can call it third-party risk management, whatever they call it, mostly vendor management, third-party management, whatever they call it, they will rank each of their vendors based on certain criteria, right? So we use CMMI, for example. We could say, well, we rank them 3 because they're in the middle, 4 because they are very effective. Most people just do like 3 ranking, and your ranking will determine how you value that vendor relationship. in terms of their compliance or how important they are in general to your business. And these are some key things to put in mind. Remember earlier on we talked about finance, legal, business line, risk management. All of this rolls down to third-party risk management. Of course, because finance must be involved, legal must be involved, HR must be involved at some point, risk management team must be involved, because all of this really rolls down to third-party risk management in general. And these are some general guide in, that I think all aligns within third-party risk management. So again, some key elements here, oversight cycle, like we talked about before. Again, I'll skip a lot of this just for you guys to go read that on your own. Tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, you can see here. You can tier them based on certain criteria. And the good thing is that you will score them. Today, you'll see how we can do scoring for the vendors. And that's going to be the focus. Of course, we do due diligence for any one of our vendors before we can give them access to what we want. Some general best practices we talked about here also. Contract is a big one, remember, of course. And this is another tiering model, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. For the contract part, I think we talked about that already. Just monitoring. Sometimes you want to make sure we have a process in place to constantly monitor vendor activities, right? So check if your vendors have a history of breach. If that comes up, then of course you want to do due diligence to check. I'll give an example. You might be surprised some of the big players in the world are also people you take a look at. Microsoft had a breach last year, Log4j for, I believe, Active Directory or so. And even though Microsoft is a big company, they are likely one of our vendors for most organizations, right? So it means we still have to ensure they've installed their patches and appropriate security health check has been done before so we're not going to let them off the hook because they're Microsoft, right? And the same thing even if it's Amazon, if there's a breach, even for Cisco, even for Checkpoint, any one of these major players, if there are public threats that we know or breach, we still need to put our eyes on them for that period, just for that reason. So it's a big deal. All right, third-party risk assessment. And that takes us to the next topic. And this will be the focus for us. And let's quickly, I'll share something real quick. And we can move on. Can you all see my screen? Let me see, am I sharing? Okay, let me stop sharing this one. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna focus on actually execution. I want us to focus on a third-party risk assessment that we will do right now. Now, before we do that, let me show you something. We share our screen. Okay, remember this Bible? I'll keep coming here because at the end of the day, this is all I care about, to be honest. All right, let's go to this first. Okay, take a look at this, everybody. So what's the scenario we're dealing with today? My organization is in the verge of deploying the systems application to the cloud solution. Some key vulnerabilities identified these are the vulnerabilities identified in general. The problem, the uncertainty of which of the vulnerabilities are most critical to ensure the business is successful and less vulnerable to cyber attack, right? What's our role? We've been asked to perform a risk assessment to understand the cloud service provider risk, all right? So that's what we are about to do right now. So what we're gonna do in this case is, okay, let me show you guys. I will start it, we'll do it together, couple of them together. Then we can quickly work as a team also. But let's start together. So I just told you the case. Then what I'm going to do, I've done some of this already, so I'm going to remove my score. You know what? Before I do that, let me just copy the tab. Okay. The ones that will send to us would be blank so that we can, but let's see what's going on here, people. So I want us to do a risk assessment of a current cloud solution we are using. All right. So what does that mean? That simply means, and just to heads up for everybody, this is not a conventional RMF framework following some textbook definition. No, I'm focused on real life, what I know you would do. And everything you see here are product of real life scenarios. I just twist it to customize it. So this is what you will likely see. The three key columns here, I want all of us to type something real quick. I want us to say, number one, the risk. Number two, the impact. Number three, the likelihood. Can we type that real quick? And I'll tell you what I want. First, type the risk. Everybody, risk, impact, and the likelihood. Let's quickly type, everybody please, if you don't mind. The risk, impact, and likelihood. I want also to type that, please. Thank you. I'm counting. Go ahead, everybody, please. Thank you. Now, because honestly, if you get this part, you're good, because at the end of the day, these are the key things people want to see. And we're going to take two cases today that are huge. These two cases are projects for somebody else, and I'm telling you this truth. So, take advantage of it. The first one will be on cloud computing. The second one will be on data governance. We have a class on data governance tomorrow, but the idea of this is to force you to kind of start thinking ahead of time and say, okay, yes, we are going to risk assessment right now. We're going to tie it back because this is for a vendor, in this case, for a cloud service provider. So when we go through this together, you guys will see the thought process. Let's go back to this PowerPoint. Remember, this is what I'm trying to achieve, right? These are the key things we want to check within the cloud provider, right? Now, if you look here, let me make sure. Yes, okay, good. Every one of those elements are here, right? So I want us, these are vulnerabilities we think can happen. And we're going to brainstorm together. Now, remember, there's no right or wrong, so to speak. It's a process to think and force us to think and say, can this happen within our organization or not? What's the risk on us? What's the impact? How high of a risk is it? So these are the things I want us to kind of think about together, okay? So let me quickly, I'll hide this too, so that we can see it larger and we can now talk about it together. So let's take the first one, ladies and gentlemen. The first one is cloud. One second, let me make this bigger. Cloud provider fails to periodically conduct a risk assessment, including penetration testing, including web. So I'm going to remove my bias here. Let's think together. What's the likelihood of this happening? And I'm watching you guys type. What do you think? Look at what I'm saying here. Is it going to be, do we think it's medium? Okay. All right. Somebody said aye. Cloud provider fails to periodically conduct risk assessment, including web application security. Okay. The likelihood of occurrence. Okay. So we are saying, okay, now let's think together. We are saying Amazon would fail to periodically conduct a risk assessment within the environment, including penetration testing. We think they would probably not do it. Is that what we're saying, right? Okay. And that's fair. Okay. Now remember, it's subjective. As long as we can defend it. So it means a company like Amazon will put their reputation online and not conduct penetration testing within their environment. Okay, I'll meet us in the middle. Now, again, it doesn't mean I'm right, as long as I can rationalize. I'll meet us in the middle and say medium, in my case, okay? I know some of us think it's very high, some of us think it's low. Well, maybe let's meet in the middle and say medium. I think Amazon the risk is too much for them not to be doing a pen test within the environment. Okay, let's go to the next one. What is the impact of them not doing the risk assessment? Is it high, medium, low? The impact is high because that can be a big deal. Okay. What about the risk? What's the risk? Is it high risk? Okay, I would agree with you. I would take high too. All right, let's go to the next one. Ladies and gentlemen, whether you believe it or not, this is risk assessment you're doing. Now, one thing I'll just tell you, let me tell you some trick real quick. In reality, when you are doing risk assessment like this, they would ask you to, many times they will ask you to, you meet a lot of teams, right? Never make that mistake to start without first putting some thoughts, okay? If you go to a meeting that you are 15 on the call, or let's say 10, 6, whatever number, and you're saying, guys, what do you think? What we are having right now is what you'll be having. People will be saying high, medium, high, low. So you start overthinking, right? So what you should do, my recommendation is come up with your own initial best estimate. Then you send it to the team and say, guys, ladies, if you don't mind, this is my initial stab at it. If you disagree, let me know and give me your comments why. So that when we come back, our conversation will be more productive. We are not going to be arguing. It will be, oh, okay, this is the reason I disagree. Then we kind of just go straight to the point at that point in time. So instead of saying very high, we will use critical instead. We're not going to say very high. We just say critical, for those risks. Okay. All right, let's go. What do we think about this one? Cloud provider has inadequate administrative, physical, and technical guide. What's the likelihood of that happening? What do you think? Let's go. So they don't have security. They don't have guards. I would probably say the risk is the likelihood is low. That's my thought. It doesn't mean, you know what that means? We are saying Amazon would not have guards in their data center, right? Or they don't have any safety in their data center. I think they might. That's my first thought. So I would say low. All right, let's go to the next one. What is the impact if they did not have guards? What do you think the impact would be? Absolutely high. I agree. Very high. What about the risk? Absolutely. Critical. I think it's critical too. Because you know what that means? Anybody homeless can go and sleep in your data center. They can go in and start stealing stuff. People can just go in and, organized crime, criminals can also go in. Anybody can just walk in. I can just go there and say, well, let me go sleep there. It's a free room, free hotel, so it's crazy. So I agree that might be high. Okay, let's take another one. Unauthorized access during transmission to cloud provider. Unauthorized access during transmission to cloud provider. What's the likelihood of that happening? I may agree with you. Yes, it can happen because if somebody, somebody maliciously gain access to your ID, they could probably just log in to your system. What is the impact? I agree. Of course. What about the risk? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Of course. Okay, excellent. Okay, so we agree on those. Let's take two more, then I will let you as a group work on, I'll share this in the WhatsApp group. Then I'll let you guys to continue to do the last 5. Let's see this one. Number 10, weak password protection for cloud services. What's the likelihood of that happening? Now, again, it doesn't mean everybody is right or wrong. It's just our thinking, and I'll justify why. So I'm saying weak password protection for cloud services. Don't forget, even though I'm a cloud provider, you as an organization have to adopt your own password management process, right? Your policy. Amazon will allow you to do whatever you want to do, right? So you have to be the one to say, hey, a company that is small, that is not really well positioned, they can probably be weak in terms of implementing their security. So I may say, do they have weak password protection for cloud services? Weak password protections for cloud services. So it's a mixed thinking. I may say it's I because of I'm thinking, I'm saying Amazon might have all the best tools. Amazon allows multi-factor authentication, for example. They allow identification, authentication, they allow all this good stuff. But if we don't use it, it's useless. So I may say I'm being conservative, right? The impact is, I may say I too. The risk is I too. Now, you can always disagree, right? But I'm just saying my first thought in terms of the way I'm looking at this. All right, let's take another one, then we would work on this as a group. The other one is unlimited password attempt for cloud services. The risk unauthorized users automated attack to obtain password. So somebody is trying to get access to your cloud services. What's the likelihood of that happening? Because think about it, most of these things are tools. Somebody can just write a code to be attacking your system. If you don't have a good control, they would attack it. So because the effort is very easy to do, I'll call it I. They can really mess you up real quick. The impact is high. These are software somebody can buy in dark web. And I'll say this is high too. So it means we have to implement a lot of controls to make sure this is properly done. All right, so let's take a quick, go back to our group real quick and just do 12 to 16. Let's do 12 to 16. Sorry, give me 1 second. As a team, then as an individual, you will just do the last one. Let me say 12 to 16. So I did up to 12, right? So I want us to do 12 to 16 as a group. So I've done this 12 to 16 right now. Then 16 to the end, you work on that as your first assignment. Ladies and gentlemen, don't overthink this. Is there a formula to calculate risk? There are many tools that give formulas, inherent risk formula. There are so many tools out there. There's no defined formula, so to speak. So, so everybody would determine how they want to calculate it. All right, let's see real quick. You guys, let me do something. Let me hide this one. Now we focus on this one. So let's quickly do this. I'm going to share this to our group real quick. Let me quickly share this. So go to, let me add it to our WhatsApp group real quick. Then it's going to be on our WhatsApp group. It's going to be uploaded to the portal. So don't worry about that. But just for the purpose of our exercise, it's on the WhatsApp group, and work on 12 to 16 real quick as a group. So let's do a breakout session real quick. The same drill. Quickly work on that real quick. Let's go. It's open. Assign to. Don't overthink it, people. Welcome back, everybody. I love the angle. A lot of you guys took this. This is great. Ayobolaji, are you on the call? I love a comment you made, so I'd like you to, I will mute you. When you talk about redundancy, especially with the cloud outage, let me unmute you. I would like your perspective. I thought that was really cool. If you don't mind,
Okay.
just go ahead.
Sure. I think that is we're talking about point 17, right? Service outage at low. Sorry, that's 16 service outage at cloud provider. So yeah, I was just, looking at the top guys, the providers like Amazon, Azure, Google, GCP, and all the rest. They have redundancies across the world. They have availability zones. They have regions, and basically, so we gave that low because so let's say you have your cloud services in this region, okay, in this physical location, your backup will be in a separate location. So even if there's and this is just to contain like natural disasters, right? So if there's a disaster in this region, it will most likely not affect the other region. So your services are still running, even though this your main region is down, the other region, the services are still running. So yeah, so we went for, that's why we went for low, the likelihood of that. We have availability zones everywhere. We have cloud, all the cloud. It's really, I don't think it's ever happened where Amazon is down globally. I don't think so. So because you have in region, you have in Europe, you have in North America. I mean, in North America alone, they have how many availability zones? It's a lot, right? And then they have in Asia. So yeah, so that's basically what we were talking about. But the impact of this is high and the risk is critical. Because if that happens, you're basically gone.
Yeah, and thank you for that insight. Again, everybody, I popped in and I thought your thinking was great. But the last one before we called it up was I was hearing how you talk about it, and I thought that was really well articulated. So that's the way we think about it. And honestly, guys, these are the kind of debates you would have in the room with people. Of course, you'll be respectful. That's why you have to be smart about it. Before you enter a meeting, come up with your assessment. Sometimes I do this. I would also put a comment here, this comment section. Like what Ayo said, I would have just said redundancy and several availability zone. So the reason I'm putting that early is that so that if somebody is asking me questions, I'll just put the comment already to let you know my reasoning behind it. You'll thank me later if life finds you in this position, because honestly, you make your life easy. One of the things about risk assessment that makes me mad is a lot of people you waste so much time on nonsense. People would debate, argue, and that's fine. But sometimes it just takes too much time. People start overthinking it. So it's always nice, come up with your reasoning, put a comment. Then when you discuss, you're going with the point of, hey guys, if you disagree with an area, what people will just do is, if you disagree with let's say low, go to review and put a note here. Just put a note, put something here. Put a note and tell me why. Just say, oh, okay, I disagree because this is a new cloud provider. So this is probably, if you have a new cloud provider that is not Amazon, that is probably, an unknown name, then you might be afraid that, well, you don't know if they have redundancy, if they have other locations. So you can put a comment like that, right? So that would help anyone to know, okay, you have a comment, then I can review the comment. If it makes sense, if it does not make sense, we move on, right? We disagree to agree. All right, excellent job, guys. Excellent job. All right, we're going to do another one. Now, I'm taking away from cloud. I know cloud has been our baby. I intentionally, by design, focus on cloud, but you will see a different perspective. It's a topic we've not touched, but the risk assessment is very similar. So it makes sense for me to just sneak it in right now. It's risk assessment for data governance. Okay, don't overthink it. Data governance is just saying, how do we handle, process, store our data, right? What are the steps in terms of the process of our data? But we're going to do a quick risk assessment also. So we're going to do the same thing. And why not? Because I just thought it makes sense. It's the same line of topic. We can as well just go ahead and talk about it. So let me show you this. Let me make sure you understand how big a deal this is. This is somebody's full-time project for 6 months. So let's put it in perspective, okay? Meaning you just have a work plan you can potentially execute for a real life project potentially, which is pretty cool. So, it's a lot of thinking, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of review, a lot of back and forth to understand what it's all about. But these are very cool stuff to leverage in real time. Okay. So let's look at the first part of it. The first part to talk about ensure that data governance over key executive board committee reporting is adequately maintained. That is the key activity. So what we will do here, I'll just talk about a few. You can notice here that we have likelihood, we have impact, the same drill we had before. I just want us to look at this and say, do we think this is high or low or medium, whatever you think it is? So let me take the first one, then you guys will see my thinking. Let me make it bold a little bit. And don't worry, we'll still get through it tomorrow. But since we talk about risk assessment, we can as well just sneak that part of it here also. All right, let's see what this is all about. Ensure that data governance reporting is adequately maintained. All right, look at the risk. Significant threats to the organization will result in inadequate clarity in ownership of key data system, which will lead to inconsistency in data availability, collection, usability, integrity, and security, which could lead to vulnerabilities that could be exploited. The likelihood of this happening, let's use our organization right now as a case study. It's not let's see if we are matured. Let me throw it to the house. Do we want a matured company or an immatured company? Meaning it's a company well run, or let's be in the middle. What do you guys think? Do you think matured or immatured? Not well run. Okay, let's take a not well run company. Okay, and we're just simulating, guys. Remember, so we're just simulating. So this is a not well run company at this point, right? So the likelihood of this happening, because okay, you know what? I think the smart thing is let's go back to our risk assessment for our NIST framework and ISO. Most of the time, these guys have been in the middle. So let's keep it as they are not well run. They're in the middle, sort of. All right. So because of that, we would be a little bit smart and say these guys, they don't have their stuff together. If you remember, under asset management in our NIST, they were struggling because they did not have effective asset management. So because of that, I will probably rank them as a company that is struggling at the moment, okay? Let's take the first one. Ensure that data governance reporting is adequately maintained. From what I've seen in that environment, in our NIST, I would say the likelihood of them having an adequately maintained data governance structure is medium. The impact, if reporting is not done properly, I would say it's high. Let's take the next one. Ensure processes are in place to maintain accurate and complete review of new regulations, blah, blah, blah. Right now, from what I've seen with them, I would say medium also. The impact is high. And don't worry, guys, some of these things will be almost cut and paste because based on what we know about the environment, we can make that decision. Let's say another one. Non-compliance could result in fines, penalties, and sanctions. So because I know I'm still not comfortable, so I'm not going to say they are low. I'll still keep them medium. The impact is high because if we are fined, that's a big deal for us, right? Let me say another one. Ensure that there's appropriate data stewardship, flow, and handling. So meaning how they handle our data, the flow. Let me see. Let's see. How do they handle the data within our environment? Ineffective data stewardship and handling will lead to insufficient data management. So in my case, I would say possibly data stewardship. I'll probably say I, because I suspect they are not handling the data very well. They've not structured their data, so I would say the risk is high at this point. So I'll give them 2 I's here. Ensure there's no redundancy in data stewardship. I would say I don't think they are doing that at all. I'll say I here also. Delegation of authority might be inappropriate. I'll say I, yes. So the risk is kind of high because it's an environment that has not been matured at all. So I can say the likelihood is high because these guys are not matured at all. From my experience with them with NIST, I'm carrying it over here to say they are not really matured. And that's okay. You know, they can challenge it. They give me evidence of why they think they are matured. But based on my initial assessment, I don't think they are mature. Ensure proper data governance reporting by management is adopted and reviewed on a regular basis. I'll keep this medium just to give them some credit. The risk is high here. All right, let me pause here. Again, we've not touched data governance as a topic, but risk assessment is the same thing. So I decided to just sneak that in so that when we touch that tomorrow, it will not be anything new. I'll send this to us, but I'll still like us to kind of brainstorm about this. Just take the last, the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's take this together then. You can just take the rest, make an attempt to just brainstorm about it, read the controls and tell me what you think in terms of the risk assessment here. Ensure there's consistency in communication of data governance reporting. Like I said, this environment has not been matured enough. I know they communicate. The question is it consistent? So I'll keep them medium here for me. The impact on the business for not communicating might be medium. Maybe we can keep that as medium. Let me see. In communication of data governance reporting, maybe medium. All right. Ensure there's visibility into the data governance reporting at all times. So we can say, yeah, likely we can say medium. Yeah, we can probably say if there's no data governance reporting at all times, visibility, I can decide to give this high. All right. So what I'm going to do, again, I just want to force us to think a little bit about it so that when we do it tomorrow, it will make more sense. But today, because we talked about risk assessment, I just want to leverage that knowledge already had from the first one and force you guys to think about this. I think we have 6 more. So I would quickly give us a breakout section. Just do the remaining 6 and don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, we already know this environment is 3. They are not good because it's not a matured environment. So it's fair to say a lot of their stuff would be, the best case scenario would be medium in this case. That's my first thought because they are not matured right now. And that's okay. Most environment will not be matured. Your assessment will get them to maturity, which is the cool part of it. When you come back the next year to do the same thing, you see them grow from 3 to 4. That is exciting because you've given them recommendation, the feedback, they'll take it to get matured and do better. That's the whole gist about it. All right, let me quickly share this and we do our breakout again real quick to wrap up just this section. Let me share it on the WhatsApp group real quick. 1 second. 1 second, 1 second. Then we'll wrap up with one more exercise and that's it for today. And don't overthink it. We'll repeat some of this exercise tomorrow. For now, we have a grasp of the gist of it. All right, let me share it on our group. Let's go to the group. Please go ahead and grab it from the WhatsApp group real quick. And let's do the same thing we did earlier on. Do it for the next, let's do it for 10 minutes. Then we finalize. Let's do 10 minutes. All right, open the group back. All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, welcome back. Um, if you guys can hear me, give me thumbs up, please. Thumbs up. Welcome back. Thumbs up. Thank you. Excellent, everybody. All right, let me quickly recap. So we put it in perspective. What you just did now, there are two things you did, believe it or not. And don't overthink it, because the honest truth is that when you do risk assessment, depends on the environment. The fundamentals will be the same thing. The reason I made you focus on risk, likelihood, and impact, those are the three key buzz areas for you, generally speaking, because that's what most of those risk assessment will look like. You can see two different projects entirely, and each one of them are projects, believe it or not. One was for a cloud risk assessment specifically, and all the vulnerabilities, then you doing a risk assessment of that cloud service provider. The second was for data governance. And believe it or not, everything around our data, it's going to be tied to ensuring we have the right risk assessment anyway to see what we're doing. And tomorrow we get into data governance, don't worry. But I forced us to kind of do risk assessment there because I had an exercise for that. But it only made sense because we're doing risk assessment to sneak that in so that we have a feel of risk assessment from two worlds entirely. And that's what you just did. Now, let me make you, hopefully you appreciate this. The second part that you did is a potential full project for somebody, guaranteed. Because what you've done there is, and tomorrow when we get into that, you would appreciate it more. You're doing an assessment of how data is being used within an organization. Massive deal. Tomorrow we'll do two exercises. One would be for the data governance risk assessment. What we did today, I'll make you repeat a little bit tomorrow because that's the focus. Then second thing would be privacy impact assessment. What does that mean? It means some of us on this call are lawyers by background and training. That would be a good one to kind of put some energy and attention. You go to an organization and say, let me see how you guys are handling privacy. So what they typically do is the PIA, privacy impact assessment. In an interview, I expect you to say, well, I conducted a privacy impact assessment to cover A, B, C, D, right? That you're checking. Those will be like your talking point. I'll put together a star for that specific also, a star for data governance also. So we have those two stars to kind of use as a guide also. Before we leave tonight, this afternoon, I would like to sneak in one big one. We started with third-party risk management. We have vendor questionnaires that we typically would use for any environment. So let me share with you what that looks like. And every one of us, I'd like us to just have a good feel of it. So what does that mean? It means if you are bringing a vendor on board, right, besides doing a risk assessment for the vendors and all that, you need to also have certain questionnaires you would have sent to the vendors. Most time we send it to them yearly or as defined by your organization, right? So that is a big one at the end of the day, right? So it means for this example, right, we have the vendor name, we have all the information around the vendors, as you can see. And sorry, just a comment, folks, please, during class, so don't send me personal messages on WhatsApp. It's distracting. All right, let's focus on work. All right, if you have comments, send it later after the class so you don't distract us. Thank you. All right, so let's see. This is a good example, right? The example is, you can see here that we have the name of the vendor, their location. They would ask somebody on the previous call we were talked about backup, address. These are things I want my vendors to provide for me, right? Now, this is the catch. Ideally, every one of us, I want us to review this document provided by a vendor. This is the answers. However, look at your work. Your work is going to be everything you look at here, I want you to be critical and have follow-up questions. And this is what you do typically when we do vendor questionnaire. You send them questionnaires, they will give you their response. Now be careful, because most times, guess what? Because they are trying to get the job, right? Everybody will tell you all the good things. They'll say, yes, we are good. Yes, we have this. Yes, we have that. That's fine. But it's on you and I to now take it a step further and get clarification. Let's take the first one. I said risk assessment. Is there a risk assessment program that has been approved? Blah, blah, blah. They said yes. Okay. I asked, what about the frequency? I want to know, tell me the frequency of a risk assessment. Ask that follow-up question. Has the risk assessment been conducted in the last 12 months? They said yes. Okay. If I were you, I would say, can I have a copy of the report of the assessment? Right? So it's only fair. Just ask a question like that. Okay, look at the next one. Let's go to another one here. Security policy. Do you guys have security policy? Blah, blah, blah. They said yes. I asked, please provide copies of all your cybersecurity policy. This is what I asked, right? Perfect. So you go on, just to kind of play around it. So for every one of this section, I expect you to kind of have one or two questions that you feel you need additional clarity from, especially because think about it. If it is you also, if you are doing if you are doing like a questionnaire, if you want to get an opportunity, guess what? Most time you're going to say yes to many things. And I see this happen all the time because including, organization I've worked with before in the past, everybody will say yes to things, right? Because if you say no, then in reality, you're altering your chance. Yes does not mean you don't have it, but sometimes there are things you can easily get so quick. So you rather say, well, if it's something we can quickly fix, we'll just say yes. So people are not going to be as honest as you think. That's what I'm trying to get to. So do your due diligence to follow up with additional questions. The exercise I want us to do here is simple. I want us to follow up with additional questions. Don't take it verbatim and say, oh, they said yes, then, then I'll just believe it, right? So I want us to make sure we can follow up. For example, look at this. Reasonable environment control present in the building, blah, blah. Please describe the HVAC parts, blah, blah. They said they have adequate controls in place in their building. You might ask, maybe if you want to, depending on, on what you want to do, you would think and say, well, environmental control, do we have raised floor panel? Something that, you make that call. Whatever you think additionally you need clarity from, ask them. And that's what most people do. If you're in third-party risk management, your vendors will send, response to you. We build these questionnaires, right? And they will provide response. Their response will determine how you classify them, will determine if you want them to take the opportunity or not. Okay, so what I would like us to do, just a quick one. There are a few here, just randomly select let me tell you the one I want you to do. All I need is have a follow-up question. Do access control, then access control and business continuity. Access control and business continuity. What I want you to do is just look at the response, then see if there's anyone there that you think you need a follow-up with. So that's going to be 166, that is business continuity. Then access control is from 93. So, all right, let's do that real quick. I'm going to share that in the group real quick. Then just do the same thing we did before. I just want you to look at those areas, then think in your mind and say, what are the questions you want to follow up? Because don't forget, every vendor will likely want to tell you what you want to hear, right? It's on you to do your due diligence. It doesn't mean that they are trying to be dubious, but they believe there are things they can easily fix before you bring them on board. For example, if you hire them today, they know that they can easily hire somebody to do something there. So people will always say yes. So trust, but we verify. That's what we're doing, okay? I'm not here to say you're lying or not, but I'm just saying I have to still do my own due diligence for my organization, and that's all that matters. So let's just do this real quick. And what's the time? Somebody said class. Don't worry, we can do it it's a short one. I don't expect you to do everything. Just get started and we will wrap it up. I'll send that to us real quick. All right, welcome back, everybody. We try to not go beyond 5 minutes outside our time. All right, thank you, everybody. You guys, amazing job. Let's don't overthink this. Typically, what we are doing is saying we have questionnaires for the vendors, right? That's standard. Every organization's questionnaire is different. So don't think, oh, it will always be like this. If they ask you to come up with a questionnaire, you can use this as an example or develop other ones, add as much as you feel is needed, right? But the main thing is that we follow up with questions because the questionnaire already exists, right? We don't reinvent the wheel. So whatever their response is, you would decide and say, does it make sense? Look at me, for example. I looked at this and I said, I know most of you had other comments, but the one I saw quickly was they said, our system vendor or service account is allowed for normal operation and monitored for usage. I said, is privileged user access reviewed? Meaning, do they have a constant time they review privileged access in the environment? They would either tell me yes or no. Oh, you know what? They already said no. So yeah, so that makes it easy here. But at least you can follow up with that kind of question. Then towards the end, some of you, I think 166, I called that wrongly instead of I used the, but anyway, this is the question. Do you have a distributed denial of service defense plan defined? They said yes. All I would ask is, can I have a copy of the plan? That's it. That's all. So you don't have to ask questions and everything, but the ones that strike you, you would ask questions to just understand it better, right? As simple as that. All right, so that's really what that is all about. There are so many tons of vendor questionnaires out there. Some of them are automated. The tools like Archer, ServiceNow, they have built-in questionnaires. They can enhance it and all that. It doesn't matter. The fundamentals are the same thing. So if you are doing an interview, you will have to say, well, you shared vendor questionnaires with the vendors. Based on their response, you make a decision on where you place them in terms of the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Your response will determine where I place you. Go back and listen to the lecture about that, but this is the core of it. If you notice, earlier on I said, what's the focus of our program? Job. Please go and listen to the recordings. My focus and value is to focus on the lab, things I know are practical, can help you to get a job and execute the job. That's all I care about, really. The lecture, go and listen in, do the quiz after it, take your time, go through it, and have fun doing it. Just wanted to call out real quick. Paula earlier on mentioned in the NIST framework, I did not include the supply chain. So just notice there's a place in supply chain, so I'll double check on that. Somebody else called out inherent risk in for the vendor management, third-party risk management, or the risk assessment rather. So inherent risk are just those risks that are they're already there before you applied any mitigation to the risk. Mostly within the inherent risk framework, you'll see things like, let me quickly just throw that in for knowledge sake, and we'll be out of here. So like, human intervention, you talk about the assumption, complexity of organization. So those are things that are already there that we cannot make a change on. So, but most times, to be honest with you, you would not be the one to come up with inherent risk. The business will come up with that, okay? So that's why I'm not really making a lot of deal about that for the inherent risk side of things. So the business will come up with what their inherent risks are, because remember again, the business know their business more than you. You are coming in, you have no clue about their business. You can do your assessment, focus on cyber, but the business, they know their business more than you. So don't come and act cute and tell them they are inherent risk. They will laugh at you because they've been doing this for 20 years, 15 years, their business. So you coming in from an outside and thinking you tell them their inherent risk, that's laughable, right? So they will tell you what their inherent risk is. They have formulas and calculation they would have baked in to calculate it. Don't sweat about that. You just focus on the actual assessment itself. Let them come up with that information, however they decide to. All right, so that's it for today. More to come. I'll send out some information about the assignments and we have fun doing it. Somebody asked the final one, can we have resume sample before end of the program? Absolutely. Now, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, I'll keep drumming this until you get tired of me saying it. This is the most important piece of everything you're doing here. Let me quickly show you. Where's my, yeah, this guy. This is it. This guy here. This is your resume. Yeah. I'll give you sample resume and build stuff, but this is it. Don't just get me resume you can't defend, right? All I care about, talk about what I've talked about in class. That's fair game, right? It's not too much to ask. So focus on what you've done in class, conceptualize it, put it in a discussion, and talk about it in an interview. It's not too much. Because if you can talk about what you did in class from a project point of view, that's all I care about. And honestly, most interviewers, if you can discuss the problem, the way you resolve it, you get them comfortable that you get it. The other things are academic. For me, I'm focused on job, things you can do to deliver at the end of the day. If you want to read, get academic, tons of stuff, go to the portal. Please, everybody still go through the topics. I took time to break each one of them down. I won't focus on them in our class live session. I'll focus more on labs, and that's the goal. All right, we'll talk tomorrow. Have fun. Enjoy this Saturday. Talk soon, guys.